Hi there, this is Jen, and thank you for joining me today. Today I have a sympathy card using a really beautiful stamp set from a Visible Image called Forever in Your Heart. So what comes with that is this beautiful feather, and then there is a cluster of circles and hearts. The sentiments are thinking of you with sympathy and special memories of your loved one stay forever in your heart. They're really beautiful sentiments, just a beautiful stamp set. And then you can also get this coordinating die that cuts that feather out. So today I'm going to do a technique that I saw recently by Tiffany Solorio. And she had seen the technique done by somebody named Gail Julie Makes, or that's the name of her YouTube channel. And it is such a fun technique that I thought I'd go ahead and give it a try. It is basically doing some gel printing with some alcohol inks. And so the first thing you're going to do is get your gel pad and put some hand sanitizer. All I had in my craft room was this Apple hand sanitizer. And then you're just going to put your alcohol inks on top of that. The point is, from my understanding, using the hand sanitizer is, instead of like isopropyl alcohol, is it, because it's a little thicker, it stays wet longer, so it allows you to work with the alcohol inks where you can't really do that with the isopropyl alcohol because it dries so quickly. And so I'm just picking out several inks. I am using Apple and Arctic from the Marabu line, and then Mermaid and a yellow color that I'm not sure what the name is from the Reinker line. And you can either leave it like this, and I did some prints where I just left it and didn't use my brayer to move the color around. And then for my card today, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of not move the brayer around the whole entire piece, but just in little spots. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this impression of the stencil from a Visible Image, which is called Ripped Fishnet. So I'm going to put that down, and then I'll pull it back up. And then I'm going to take my stamps and push those into the gel plate as well. I am going to clean all of this with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. I don't want to use too much because I don't know if it'll damage the stamp, but it does clean up everything really well. So if you're worried about your stamps, I'm just adding that little bit of isopropyl alcohol to a rag or something like that, and just wiping them down will get rid of the alcohol ink. And then I'm going to go ahead and set that stencil right back on there, and then take the first impression, which is basically going to remove all the ink from all those little holes from the stencil. And then in the videos from Tiffany and Gail, they use the alcohol lift ink reinker. I don't have the reinker, so I'm just using the ink pad, and I'm just kind of setting it and moving it around. If you have the reinker, what they showed was adding it to the gel plate kind of at the bottom or at the top, and then using your brayer to kind of add that over the top of the ink. Quite honestly, I'm not really sure what the purpose of that is. I must have missed that part. I don't know if it helps the ink come up easier, but you can still do this if you don't have an alcohol ink reinker or alcohol lift reinker, or the alcohol lift pad, because I did a couple of pulls from that without that product that I'll go ahead and show you. But isn't that gorgeous? It comes out so pretty. You have a faint impression of the feather, and then my gel plate is kind of warped, so that's why those weird lines are in there. But here are some different pulls that I did with some different stencils. Some of them using the alcohol lift ink, and some of them not. And they just turn out beautiful. This is super fun and addicting, and I could do this like all day for hours, just using different colors and pulling those off of that gel plate. But I went ahead and set that stuff aside. I'm going to stamp up the feather. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this up 3 times on some Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I'm using some Versafine Clair Morning Mist. And then once I had those stamped up, I wanted to add some more stamping on top of it. So I'm using a stamp from the Scripted Streets stamp set, as well as the little cluster of circles and hearts from the main stamps that I'm using, Forever in Your Heart. And I used my anti-static bag thinking that would be fine, and the embossing powder wouldn't stick to the entire feather. It would just stick to what I had just stamped. But I was wrong, of course, because pigment ink stays wet forever. I did think that the anti-static bag would take that wetness away, but it ended up white heat embossing the entire feather. I go back and try and fix that a little bit here in a minute, so that you can really see the detail a little bit better than you can with that white embossing powder over it. But I'm going to do a little bit of ink smishing. So I've got a plastic packaging, and I am using some Distress ink in Salvage Patina, and I'm just taking the cardstock that I have that feather stamped on and just pushing it into that ink. And then once I have that dried, I'm going to go ahead and take a cloth and wipe off any of that ink that has sat on the top of that melted embossing powder. And then I will take the die and cut all of these out. And then to bring out the detail a little bit more, I am using a dauber and some Distress ink in a robin's egg, I believe is the color. And so I'll do that around the edge of the entire feather, and then add a little bit on the inside, just so you can see that detail a little bit better. And it was a little too white, and I wanted to make sure you could see like the details of the feather. So I went ahead and I stamped up the feather stamp again. And usually I'm not real good at stamping back over an image with a stamping block. That's why I feel more comfortable using my Misty. But this one, it was fine because I had the die cut edges kind of as a guide to restamp that, and so that was really easy to go back and stamp right over and get it pretty close to what the original image was stamped. And then I will take some adhesive and adhere 2 feathers flat to the card, and then that 3rd feather I'm going to add a little bit of foam and pop that up kind of in the middle. And I've already gone ahead and matted that alcohol ink panel onto a piece of blue cardstock, and then that onto a piece of white cardstock. And then I will go ahead and add this sentiment, and I'm going to add a little bit of foam to that so it could fit over the bottom of the feathers. And it says, "Special memories of your loved one, forever in your heart." And that's going to finish off my card for today. I hope you enjoyed. If you did like this video or find it informative, I would love a thumbs up. As always, I thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to spend with me, and I hope to see you next time.